Welcome to another episode of the DesiPod. Today's a very interesting topic called the freedom to be me. We'll be discussing this topic from two different angles, one of which is the experience of balancing British and Asian identities. So that's growing up in this country as a British Asian. And then secondly, also having, I guess, pride of being of a certain culture and your own cultural heritage. So, two very, very interesting points of conversation. So let's start off with the first one, the experience of balancing British and Asian identities. What's been your experience of that? Shall we start with you, Ishaq?
Yeah, let's do that. It's another exciting topic, and this one resonates because as a child of the 80s, a lot of us British Asians grew up where the conversation about Asian culture and that fusion between Asian values and British values has evolved over the years, and how we have pretty much during that time adapted our thinking and often been sometimes trying to fight with ourselves and with wider society in terms of what who are we? Are we British? Are we Asian? Are we Asian British? And how that fits in, and then the aspects of our faith comes in, and it has been an interesting journey because you have the moral example that you get from the home, you have the cultural values that you get. I don't want to say from the village, but from the wider society that your forefathers have come from, and then you have the culture that's you're growing around you, be it that fusion of kids from the estate, and you I grew up in an area where we had a mixture. We had some white folk, we had some predominantly Pakistani community, and we had an Indian community. And all those things coming together. We've spoken before about language, but it's more than that, isn't it? It's about those habits, it's about the dress that you wear, it's how you behave. And the way we behaved with our friends wasn't always what you were free to behave with in terms of when you were around with your own elders or people from within your own community. Has it evolved? I think it has evolved because with each year, the acceptable norms have changed. The learned behaviours of those around us and ourselves have adapted. So I remember growing up, and whenever I'd get a form, it'd say, "What are you?" I'm like, well, I'm born in England, so I'm English. Clearly, I'm English, man. It's English. It wasn't until much later that I realised, actually, hang on a minute, that's strictly not right, is it? Because yes, I'm English, but I'm classed as British
Mm.
Pakistani, British Asian. And I fought with that till university age because it was like, well, actually, but I'm English. I support England. It's football, cricket, rugby. It's England. So why are you saying I'm British Asian or British Pakistani? What that meant in practice, because obviously we were encouraged to wear certain type of clothing. There were certain etiquettes that we were doing in our communities, which were different to how, say, the wider British society were at the time. Even things like from your diet, from your entertainment values, and what people did in terms of the pastimes, it was quite different. I had friends that would go out clubbing. I had people in our wider community in my school that would go clubbing and would do other stuff, whereas we would visit our relatives. The idea of a holiday for us was visiting Birmingham, visiting those cities, whereas obviously wider British society, that value was considerably different.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And I guess we are a fusion of all of those things, really, aren't we? But yeah, really, really interesting points there. Hasnan, what's been your experience?
Well, for me personally, I come from a Pakistani background. My parents both came to this country from the city of Lahore. So our city of Lahore was considered as being very modern and up and coming. And our values, my values itself, have evolved since I was a child. I mean, my mum and dad gave me the freedom to experience life, and I personally was given the go ahead to do whatever I wanted to do. And I think a lot of my friends found that kind of concept really alien and weird. They were like, well, your parents giving you freedom to travel or freedom to be friends with whoever you want. And for me, it was just normal. I was like, well, this is what my mum and dad have always said to me, that within do not transgress your limits, do not go to the point where you bring shame to the family. However, you're free to experience. And I distinctly remember there's a time when my dad's friend who said to my father, I think there was a point in my life when I started to rebel, and I wanted more freedom, and my mum and dad were concerned because I was the eldest in the household, so I had a lot of riding on my shoulders, and I had younger siblings who were looking up to me. And I think it was around the time 16, 17 when I wanted to stay out till late. 18, I was remember And my mum was like, no, you can't. You need to be home at a certain time. That's how she feared that being outside with certain friends could probably shape me or mold me, or she might lose me. So I was rebelling at that time. And my dad said to me, well, what do I do? And he spoke to his best, really good friend. And his friend said, look, whether you stop him or try to stop him, he's still going to do what he wants to do. He's at that age where he wants to experience life as he wants to. So give him the option of experiencing it. However, sit him down man to man and look him in straight in the eye and say, look, this is who we are. Okay, I'm up and down the country like it was nothing. So for me, I was blessed in that respect to really experience on the other side. I had friends from I would go clubbing and stuff, and granted I didn't go because I just didn't like the environment. But my parents said to me, look, you're free to do what you want to do. And a lot of my friends who came from certain parts of Pakistan, their upbringing, they were like, well, that's kind of weird. And why would you have that conversation with your mum and dad? Or why would you even let them know, if you are going to do what you need to do, they don't need to know. But I had that relationship where my father was like my best mate at home. He said, look, son, so what you up to? Who's your mates? What they're doing? Are they okay? And I don't remember my friends ever having that relationship. So we were given that free role to be free to be who you are in that respect.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think similar experience in terms of freedom as well. I think I kind of came from a household where we were pretty much allowed to be ourselves in whatever kind of form that took as well. But I do distinctly remember kind of growing up as a child that there were certain things that you could do and there's certain things that you couldn't do. I think you pertain to this anyway, Hassan. I think what I benefited from, growing up in Asian household was the boundaries that being Asian, I guess, gave you. And it's not specific to Asian culture per se. I'm sure there's other cultures that have similar boundaries, but you kind of knew what right and wrong was, right? If you did something wrong, your parents would tell you it's wrong. And that kind of emotional experience stays with you pretty much for the rest of your life, right? So there was that sense of discipline. There was that very clear understanding of what you can do and what you can't do. There was an emphasis on family values. There was an emphasis on respecting elders, for example. And as old as I am now, those are the things that still stay with me, right? I'll give you a prime example. When I was younger, as a child, I distinctly remember, my relatives coming to our house to visit. And there was a pretty large family, as Asian families generally tend to be. And I was specifically called out and I was told to greet every single one of them. So I actually literally went around the room kind of greeting every single one of them. And I think that what that instilled within me, and it wasn't just on one occasion that I was asked to do that, is that sense of respecting your elders, is that sense of discipline, is that sense of respecting boundaries, whatever they might be. And I think I really benefit from that as a person kind of growing up. But then equally, growing up in a British society afforded me the freedoms that probably would have been difficult otherwise. Born and bred here, educated here, managed to meet and interact with and befriend people from all sorts of cultures and communities. And I think that's kind of really shaped me up into the person that I am now, which does lead me on to my next question, because I think it's a interesting thread from the conversation that both of you
Before you do, Abdurrahman, just touching on that when you meeting, was that the shake your hands with everybody in the room?
Pretty much, yeah.
And
Yeah.
did you miss anybody out?
Did I miss anybody
It
out?
happened, it happened to all of us. You'd
Yes.
go around the room and there's one person that was
Yeah.
I've been that person that's been missed out, and you're like,
Yeah.
what's he got against me?
It is very true. You know what? It's good that you pointed that out as well, because I remember when I was older, right, in my 30s and stuff, there was a kid that was required to do the same thing, and he did miss me out. And I'm like, what did I do to deserve that? But,
That's it.
as a
That's
kid,
it.
you just get so nervous, right? You're like, oh my God, why am I even being expected to do this, right? You couldn't understand the reasoning behind it. But as you grow older, you understand why it was happening. But yeah,